Yeah, hi, Michael. Firstly, I want to thank you so much for being with us today in these hard times, for the enlightening talk and creating such a great estimation frameworks, Concept.js for JS applications and Conception for PHP applications. Welcome to Ankara Testing Days.
Thank you.
And this will be a chatting session through the questions. I want to start with the conference team. What are the biggest challenges of testimation projects?
Biggest challenges, I would say, is managing application state, as I said in the beginning. So it's so to feed the application into the correct view when you really need it. So, for instance, if I want to check just one button of an editor of a component, like text editor, and I want to check that when I type text and I press the bold button, the text becomes bold. I will need to set up all this application to check this part. Or I will need to extract this component and create some simplified application to test this part. So dealing with this question is the hardest part of working with tests. So you always need to think how I can test this behavior in the most efficient way. Should I refactor the code somehow? Should I test it as end-to-end test? Maybe I should test it as a unit test. And it's always a question of trade-offs and what quality we will have in the end. Is this trade-off acceptable or not? So, and there are no good solutions to this because our applications are very serious, are very complicated, and we need to test them.
Yeah, sounds good. My other question is, Concept.js has nice features like easy parallel testing, Cucumber-like BDD, rich locators, auto-try mechanisms to reduce flakiness, but two of them differentiates from others. First one is the driver agnostic architecture that enables testers to automate tests by using Protractor, Test Cafe, Appium for mobile, Selenium WebDriver, Puppeteer, Axios for API tests, Appium for mobile tests, and it can be changed by one line of the configuration. It's like Swiss Army knife of automation. Learn Concept.js and use many different automation frameworks at the backend. Where did this idea come from to you? And what's your suggestion on selecting the driver? As you said, I understand from the presentation that you are suggesting like Playwright, but we can ask again.
Yeah, this is a good question, and this is actually about the story of Concept.js. That at the beginning I didn't know the idea, so I wanted to write the testing framework for JavaScript, but I didn't have an idea what the problem will it solve. And then I learned that there is Protractor and WebDriver are your competing engines. And I thought, if there are two engines, maybe there will be 3 or 4, and I was absolutely right. So every year there's some new thing have appeared. So the ecosystem evolves. So today I recommend Playwright. Tomorrow it will be something new. And rewriting the test from one to other is not the best option. So for instance, there were lots of tests written in Protractor. It was really popular. But looking on the maintenance policy of Protractor, it was obvious that it will end at one day. And it actually happened. And all its community was really disappointed because lots of code was already written in Protractor. And the thing is, if this code was written in Concept.js, well, nothing has happened to them. So yeah, so currently Playwright is the best, but we don't know what comes in future, and let's just follow how the ecosystem, and if something will emerge, it will be at to Concept.js too.
Yeah, thanks. Thank you very much. And other question, another feature I like most is the readability of the code. The code is very concise, especially in API testing with actions is very easy. It's like reading plain text. It's like the definition of the clean code. Do you suggest using TypeScript or continue with JavaScript in Concept.js because you are presenting the TypeScript feature in Concept.js, as I know?
Actually, I have lots of currently many. I have lots of questions from community about the TypeScript, and every time I try to figure out why do they use TypeScript, why do they choose it. It's really hard to understand for me what is the actual reason of using TypeScript in test automation. So, for instance, if you develop complex product, you need to understand the flow of data or to add these types here and there. And TypeScript is really important for such systems. But in test automation, where our end product is a test scenario that just executes some action in browser, I don't see really big efficiency in adding this layer of complexity of TypeScript on top of Concept.js. So I prefer to use native JavaScript. So sure, TypeScript may save us from running tests that uses incorrect method or incorrect page object. So it will save us on compile time and not in runtime. But to be honest, does it really worth these efforts? So it adds some cost on maintaining the code. So my personal preference not to use TypeScript, but Concept.js can play with TypeScript really nice, and there are already a community around that are using it with TypeScript who are adding things to improve the usage of TypeScript. So it's up to you to use it, but think twice what the problems are you solving with TypeScript in your browser tests.
Yeah, thank you. And related to this question, like TypeScript at the side of Java, Selenium and Java. Selenium and Java are powerful tools, no question, but they have some trade-offs, especially at the testimation side, testimation projects, that we are not producing projects with 60 developers or 30 developers. We are producing automation projects like 2-5 people, and not enterprise projects a little bit need to be light and quick and agile languages, programming languages and frameworks. Selenium and Java are powerful tools, but there are new generation automation frameworks like Concept.js, Playwright, Cypress that increase the efficiency and code readability. Why still new projects are being started with Selenium and Java? Is it about to use a tool that you already know rather than learning a new one? Or maybe is it about to use Selenium community? What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think the testing community is really conservative to changes. So, test automation engineers are people who are trained to use in one paradigm, and they are really hard to switch to something new. So especially when comparing Selenium in Java and modern Node.js stack, so they would probably use TypeScript because it really sounds them like Java, and they were choosing Protractor because it was really similar to Java API of Selenium. Nowadays, they would choose the TypeScript and Playwright because it's also very, very similar, except the usage of await stuff everywhere. So people are just really conservative, and they don't really understand the reasoning behind using this and these technologies. And because it's evolution of tooling, at some point we need to revisit it and rethink, was this we use these tools in that way because of our choice, or because the ecosystem didn't allow us a different way of usage. And that's what was in Java. So Java was the standard, and it didn't provide us any flexibility. So nowadays we can have Concept.js style of testing, we can have Cypress style of testing, which are quite similar because they don't use object model, or we can use TypeScript or in Playwright with the heavy OOP on top of it. And it's really depends on the user preference, depends on how they're comfortable with and the code they will maintain. If they are used to write the code in this old-fashioned manner and they can't resync it, okay, so if they want something new, they could use the new tooling.
Thank you very much for the enlightening answers. And I think Duygu has some questions.
Yes, I will also have some questions, which we gather from community. My first question is, what are the main differentiators between Concept.js and other test automation framework, like Selenium, Cypress, Playwright?
Oh, can you choose one of them? Because it's a very general question. Because, yeah, let me think of it like if we compare Concept.js to Cypress, the main selling point is that Concept.js is not as limited in the browser engine as Cypress is, because Cypress can only test one single page. And if you try to do something more around it, it's very limited into capabilities. Concept.js provides you full API, which is powered by Playwright. And because Concept.js and Cypress are like competitive tools, I would compare them. So Concept.js is much more flexible and much more structured, and its code is much more readable because we don't use this complex promises, and the syntax is much more cleaner. And we also have UIs. If we compare Concept.js to other like Selenium, like Descafe and other Playwright and so on and so on, the main selling point is architecture, that we can easily try this and this and this engine with one syntax. So we could use the same test automation team to work with WebDriver and with Playwright. And they don't need additional trainings. And on top of this unification, we add reporters, we add parallelization, we add BDD support. So everything that you need for testing except running the testing browser. So we give all the dirty works to the engines, and we build infrastructure for testing on top of it.
Okay, thank you. And another question. How to decide what to automate? Which types of test cases to automate in first place, do you think?
So very good question. So I would say with the first priority is business crucial scenarios like registration, logging in, it's essential, right? Then you go to see what is the main business flow of your application. If it's a e-commerce, it's a checkout flow. If it's, I don't know, some system that now controls the data, you need to go the main user flow at first. Then you think of scenarios that are hard to test manually every time. So it's just like boring case, like reset password, and some very rare cases that are beyond this normal user flow, but there needs to be tested as well. So they should be automated too. And then adding tests by one when you to add more and more scenarios that are also important to business.
I see. Thank you. One more. In a case like there is a new and more efficient tool for automation project, but management may want to stick with the old and inefficient one. Since there will be migration costs, do you have any tips for testers to help convince the management?
So I had the tip when the people who were using protractor, and they said, no, it's very heavy migration cost. We don't want to do it. And at one point, the protractor just said that project won't be maintained anymore. And so all these companies had to find out this cost at some point. So, you won't be able to use forever the old tools without immigration. So at some point, you will either leave the project or you will find this cost out. So probably you don't need all those tests written. Maybe some of them are just deprecated on its own. Maybe that wasteless testing. So you still need to review the code like every year or every 2 years to rethink if these tests are still valid. And yeah, you will, if you check that, you do this regular check of tests, you can start writing them from scratch and replace them one by one and run one pipeline of new tests, one pipeline of old tests, excluding some of the tests from old suite and adding more to new suite. So just don't do it like it won't happen immediately. Just start the migration, and if you will see some benefits of it, you can continue this way with and have manager's approval. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, I may ask some questions. We will not leave Michael easily. Yeah. As we see that the count of the test automation projects is on the rise, as well as the percentage of failing test automation projects, why must most of the test automation projects fail and end up in a lot of effort but very little value, opposite of its aim?
Well, I think there are, first of all, it's miscommunication between developers and test automation engineers. Because developers always know how to do more efficient testing. And sometimes people just create very strange things using the browser. Even if they could ask the developer, hey, could you provide me just a link I could hit to get to the point I need to reach? So first of all, get connected to developers, ask them your goals and what they can do to help you. For instance, this API, exposed API for data management I showed previously to get into the correct state of application. The next problem is the tests are not really meaningful. So if the tests are written in Java, and you try to read its code, you don't really see the scenario with your eyes. You don't understand, is this scenario, what does it check? What is the purpose? What is the business value of it? So there is another tendency on switching to BDD using Cucumber, Gherkin, writing this in native English to understand these scenarios. This is also a good way to solve this problem of test maintenance, but it still adds a cost on its own. But anyway, the thing is, the tests must be readable, and if the test must be removed from the test suite because it's meaningless, it must be removed. And don't keep all the tests because you have them. So, and yeah, cover all the parts with unit tests, and don't repeat end-to-end tests with unit tests, like build the classical pyramid whenever you can.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thanks for the question.
I have one more question. We have a lot of questions, Michael.
Cool.
Okay. Our question is, locator strategy is one of the challenges in test automation. What is the fastest and reliable locator in Concept.js that you suggest?
So I usually suggest to follow the semantic locator. So if there is a link I click that link by its title. If it's a button, I click the button by its title. So if there is a button with icon but with no title, I add the alternative tag for this button and click still by its alternative title. So I rely on semantics. This is the main, because even semantics will change, like register will be changed to sign up. It's really easy to figure out that this change has happened and that you need to update your test, and even without looking into the code of page, you can update your test to reflect this change. And if you add some complex locator and then a page has slightly changed, you will need to dig deep into the details to understand what the new locator is. So whenever possible, use the visible parts of the page to locate elements. If not, use some IDs or class names, which also have semantical meanings. And if not, add your own test IDs or data IDs. So I put this option into the very end because it's really, it has its own burden of maintaining these test IDs, because some of them are added, some of them are not. You need to always to update them if they're changed, and so on. So try to use whatever the page provides to you, and if not, add your own IDs.
Thank you very much.
And the last question, Michael, what should Ankara Testing Days community members do if they want to contribute to CodeCept.js or Conception in GitHub as a contributor?
So contributions are really welcomed, and we had lots of good things added to CodeCept.js. So CodeCept.js is comparing to other projects I named, is only a tiny wrapper on top of these frameworks. So it's really easy to understand what's happening in CodeCept.js, and the amount of code to read is not that big. So if you want to improve something, to add some feature, you already see they have good examples of these features. You already can read the API and add things on your own and share it with the community. So all the API is designed. For instance, we have a plugin API, and people are building really cool plugins for CodeCept.js, and they are pushing into the CodeCept.js repository, so we are accepting them.
Okay.
So, sorry, you're on mute.
Yeah, thank you very much for the great sessions, Michael. It was very nice to listen to you, to know you. I hope in next time we host you as in person in Ankara.
Yeah, that would be really great. So thank you for inviting, and thank you for the interest to CodeCept.js. It's really important to me.
Yeah. Thank you very much for creating such a great transformation frameworks for use of us.
Thank you very much, Michael.
Thank you.